Okay, so let's unpack this. I want you to imagine you get into uh, a truly horrific motorcycle crash.
Yeah, the kind you really shouldn't walk away from.
Exactly. You fly through the air, your skull hits the pavement, and it literally cracks. Like, it cracks open like a coconut.
Right, which is just a terrifying visual.
It really is.
Yeah.
But somehow, you walk away a few weeks later with zero internal bleeding. And the doctors are, well, they're completely baffled.
Because mechanically, medically, that just doesn't make any sense.
Right. So today, for our deep dive, we're looking at the translated notes and transcripts of a Thai Buddhist master who went through exactly that. And what's wild is he didn't attribute his survival to, like, good luck or a miracle.
No, not at all. He attributed it to what he basically described as the literal physics of the human mind.
Yeah, and that's our mission today. We are decoding these Eastern spiritual concepts to show you why they matter to your everyday life, regardless of what you actually believe.
Because, usually when we approach this kind of philosophy, there's this expectation of abstraction. We think of riddles or sitting on a cushion, letting go of attachments in this very poetic, airy way.
Right, very ethereal.
Exactly. But the sources we're working with today, they strip all of that poetry away. It's almost, it reads like a highly technical manual for how consciousness operates.
Like mechanics, how we generate invisible energy, and how a simple practice, like chanting, can literally act as a mechanical shield against physical and spiritual dangers.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And the core premise here starts with this concept called the citta.
The mind.
Right, the mind. But the master describes it not as some mysterious floating soul, but basically as an always-on recording device.
It never hits pause. I mean, every single second of your life, it is recording data through your eyes, your ears, your nose, your tongue, your physical body.
And your internal thoughts, too.
Yes. Everything is being continuously written to the hard drive, which sounds exhausting.
Well, what's fascinating here is the trap that this creates, because it's a relentless recording mechanism, right? So think about what happens when you sit around and recall a past trauma or, I don't know, a bitter argument from 10 years ago.
You're just pulling up an old file.
You'd think so. We tend to think we are just passively accessing an old memory. But the text argues that the mind doesn't distinguish between a past event and the present memory of that event.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when you dwell on that negative emotion, your mind is actively writing a fresh, brand new file of suffering right then and there.
You're literally re-recording the trauma.
Exactly. It's a vicious loop. You take an event that happened once in physical reality and you force your mind to experience it and record it thousands of times.
Which just compounds the suffering. You know, mechanically, it makes me think of a smartphone. Like when your internal storage is completely maxed out.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. But instead of being full of vacation photos, your storage is filled with these toxic, blurry screenshots of the worst moments of your life.
And because the memory is full of that heavy data, the operating system just runs terribly.
Exactly. The battery drains, the phone overheats. You can't process anything new.
Yeah.
So the sources offer a way out of this compounding loop through chanting, like a mantra or prayer. They say it makes the mind feel light.
Right.
So sticking with the phone analogy, does chanting act like a factory reset that wipes the drive clean? Or is it doing something else?
Well, it's not a wipe. It acts more like launching a completely clean, high-priority application. And that new app forces all those corrupted background apps to suspend their activity.
Okay, so it overrides them.
Yeah, and the mechanism relies entirely on frequency. When you chant, you're assigning the mind a new high-frequency task to record. You're intentionally feeding it clean data.
But that sounds like it would take a lot of effort at first.
Oh, immense effort. The heavy files want to pull your attention back, but eventually the chanting becomes automatic, kind of like how a catchy song gets stuck in your head and just plays on a loop.
Right, without you even trying.
Exactly. The mind stops paying attention to the negative files because it's fully occupied with this light frequency.
So it stops accessing the traumatic files, and therefore it stops re-recording them. You break the cycle.
You're starving the negative files of the attention they need to replicate.
Okay, so if the mind is this relentless recorder, we have to talk about the backlog. Like the old data, the harm we've caused, the debts we've accumulated.
Right, the karmic debts.
Yeah. The text brings up this concept called Chao Kam Nai Wen, basically invisible karmic creditors.
Spirits from our past.
From this life or previous ones, yeah. And according to the sources, these creditors are just constantly hanging around waiting for us to drop our guard so they can collect their debt.
Yeah.
And that collection looks like sudden misfortune or accidents.
And the warning the master gives here is stark. He says we expose ourselves to them when we get entangled in the worldly realm.
Meaning materialism, anger, jealousy.
Trauma, yeah. When we do that, our mind's frequency plummets. We become energetically heavy. And in that heavy state, we become a perfect vibrational match for those creditors.
We basically lower our shields.
Exactly. But the frequency of Buddhist chanting acts as a literal barrier. When your mind is aligned with the mantra, your frequency is elevated beyond their reach. The negative karma just can't penetrate your frequency.
So the debt is still there, but they can't cash the check because the systems don't line up.
Right, the transaction is blocked.
And the text introduces this wild multiplier effect here, too. It says if you focus your mind on a great teacher or a bodhisattva while you chant, the merit runs through you 7 times.
It vastly amplifies the power of the practice.
Okay, but listen, I read that part and I have to ask, what does this all actually mean? I mean, isn't this essentially like hiring a cosmic VIP bodyguard?
How do you mean?
Like, it feels like a spiritual loophole. You owe these entities a massive karmic debt, so instead of facing the consequences, you just tap into an enlightened being to act as an unbreachable wall to get out of trouble.
This raises an important question, and it's a natural reaction to view it as a loophole. But the text clarifies it's really not a cheat code.
Okay, why not?
Well, bodhisattvas have these vast fields of merit from countless lifetimes of selfless action. Think of them as a colossal power grid.
Okay.
When you tune into them, you borrow their strength. But, and this is a huge but, the text explicitly notes that the connection is incredibly fragile.
How fragile.
If you have a single negative emotion, like a flash of anger or selfishness, that negative frequency instantly severs the connection. The merit is entirely blocked from entering you.
Oh, wow. So the power grid immediately rejects you because your hardware is suddenly incompatible.
Exactly. You can't borrow protective energy while throwing a human tantrum. You have to maintain the right frequency yourself to keep the connection.
That makes sense. And this protective energy, it doesn't just stay inside you, right? The sources say it bleeds out into the physical and unseen environment around you.
Yes. The space we occupy is highly reactive to human consciousness. We think of the environment as just a passive backdrop, but the master argues it's an active canvas absorbing our energy.
Which brings us to the unseen spirit world. And here is where I found a point that is so counterintuitive. The text says humans are vastly more attached and needy than spirits.
Right, which goes against every ghost story we've ever heard.
Exactly. We think ghosts are the ones trapped by attachment. But the text says spirits only consume with the mind just thoughts and merit.
They exist in a very streamlined state.
While humans are addicted to consuming with both the body-like forms, tastes, sights, and the mind, we're endlessly complicated. The master actually jokes at one point that associating with spirits is better than associating with people.
Because if you send a spirit good energy, they just receive it with pure gratitude. They aren't gonna, argue with you about politics.
Or cut you off in traffic. People carry all this chaotic density.
And that density explains the source's explanation for why people build giant Buddha statues. From the outside, it looks like simple cultural decoration. But applying these mechanics, the text frames a giant statue as a localized energy generator.
A generator.
Yeah. Every time a human who has a physical body and mind looks at the statue and feels a genuine moment of reverence or peace, it creates a spark of clean energy.
And the text states that energy doesn't just disappear. It overlaps in the physical world.
Yeah, it layers upon itself.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like these statues become massive spiritual Wi-Fi routers. Hundreds of thousands of people stand in that exact spot, have a spark of peace, and it saturates the location.
It creates a permanent shift in the environment.
So if energy overlaps and stays in a physical location, is that why the master advises his students to never leave bad energy behind in the world? Because we will inevitably have to return to it.
That's exactly it. It's a lesson in environmental and spiritual responsibility. Leaving a room in a state of blind rage isn't just a personal issue, it's environmental pollution.
You're leaving a toxic residue that someone else has to wade through.
Right. But conversely, when we chant in our cars in gridlock traffic or walk through a stressful mall repeating a mantra, we become mobile routers of good energy.
We're emitting high-frequency light into that space.
And the spirits around us who are suffering and stuck benefit from that. The stressed humans benefit too.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the theory. But how does this invisible energy actually manifest when the physical world comes crashing down on you? Which brings us back to the motorcycle crash.
The coconut skull.
Right. He flew through the air, blacked out, head hits the ground. Miraculously, no internal bleeding. What is the actual explanation for that?
Well, his teacher told him that all his daily chanting had accumulated into a massive tangible power. At the exact millisecond of impact, his consciousness executed an emergency response.
Emergency response.
It temporarily shifted entirely out of his physical body and into what the text calls a high Brahma state.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
It ejected his consciousness out of his body. That sounds like science fiction.
It's a state of profound detachment. Basically, his mind severed its identification with his physical nervous system. Normally, massive trauma causes the mind to go into shock, which triggers fatal physiological responses.
The shock is what kills you.
Right. But because his mind was tethered to the mantra, his awareness withdrew. The physical karma still played out, his skull fractured, but his core operating system wasn't in the hardware to receive the fatal shock.
The software was safely stored in the cloud.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
But it also feels totally unattainable. I mean, most of you listening to this deep dive are not monks in a cave. You have mortgages, kids, jobs.
You don't have 10 hours a day to practice ejecting your consciousness.
Exactly. But the text actually pivots here to something it literally calls chanting for the lazy.
I love that phrase.
Me too. You don't have to sit in formal meditation. The instruction is just to lie in bed and run the mantra in your mind until you fall asleep every single night.
And over time, that simple habit alters your baseline frequency.
It even helps manage severe physical pain. The text tells this story of a nun with severe blood cancer. She lived for 6 peaceful years, way past what doctors predicted, purely by focusing her mind on her mantra.
She detached from her failing body.
Right. She didn't cure the cancer, but she completely ignored the pain by locking her awareness onto the high frequency.
It's the exact same mechanic as the motorcycle crash, just applied over a 6-year decline instead of a split-second impact.
Okay, but I have to push back on something here because there's a massive paradox in the text.
What's that?
The whole goal of chanting is detachment, right? Pulling your mind away from the worldly realm.
Right.
Yet the master tells the student that practicing this chanting can actually make you rich. He says it'll give you sudden business ideas, intuition to spot a cheating partner, or even the foresight to avoid poisoned food.
Oh, yeah.
How does detaching from the physical world make you exponentially better at navigating the practical realities of business? I mean, a mantra doesn't magically alert you to arsenic in your soup, does it?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about clarity, not magic. Think about the sheer volume of mental energy an average person wastes every day.
Just agonizing over the past and future.
Exactly. Second-guessing colleagues, managing insecurities, all that noise creates a thick psychological fog. It severely clouds our judgment.
We're back to the maxed out smartphone. The processor is so bogged down by background tasks that it can't run the app right in front of it.
Perfectly said. So when you quiet that relentless recording through chanting, you systematically clear the fog. True clarity and intuition emerge.
You aren't distracted by anxiety.
Right. You clearly read a business partner's microexpressions because you aren't projecting your own insecurities onto them. You spot lucrative opportunities that were always there, but you were just too stressed to see them.
So it's not that the universe is rewarding you with cash, it's just hyper-competence. You've cleaned your mind enough to operate at its highest analytical potential.
You master the worldly realm precisely because you are no longer enslaved by it.
Wow. It really all comes back to managing the machine inside your head. The mind is a relentless recorder. But we actually have the agency to dictate what it records by intentionally setting our frequency.
We shield ourselves from the past, we become mobile routers of clean energy, and we unlock this profound clarity in our daily lives.
It's an amazing framework. And I want to leave you with something to chew on long after this deep dive ends. Even if you never adopt a formal mantra, even if you don't practice Buddhist chanting, your mind is still relentlessly recording something every single day.
It never hits pause.
It never stops. So you have to ask yourself, what invisible mantras are you allowing your mind to record on a continuous loop right now? Is it the 24-hour news cycle? Your own harsh self-criticism?
Or endless financial anxiety.
Exactly. And based on the invisible energy you are emitting right now in this very second, what kind of unseen karmic creditors are you unknowingly inviting into your life?